Hi, everybody. My name is Jody London. I work in the Department of Conservation and Development, but I am a resource to all county departments and employees. I am our sustainability coordinator, and my job is to oversee implementation of the county's climate action plan. You may not know that we have a climate action plan, but we do, and it outlines all the different things that we can do in county government to help address the changing climate, which we all see around us every day. And one of the main things, and we're going to, Anika, maybe we should go to the first slide since I'm kind of launching into it here.
Sure.
This slide shows the greenhouse gas emissions profile for Contra Costa County. And what you see at the top is, are emissions from the residential and non-residential building sector, which together make up nearly 31% of the emissions in our county. But if you look further down, you see that on-road transportation is 45% of the emissions. So that is really a big amount. I will tell you that this chart does not include the large industrial facilities. Those are regulated by the state and the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, but transportation is a really big deal. And so we're very interested in finding ways to reduce emissions from the transportation sector in our county. A big part of that is how you and I commute to work every day. Most of us drive. And then another big piece of it, obviously, is county fleet. So we're hosting this session with Ride and Drive Clean to help all of us learn more about electric vehicles and what our opportunities are. And there's a lot more that will be said and could be said, but I think I'll stop there, Anika, and turn it back over to you. And again, I really want to thank everybody for making time today to be here with us. We are recording this session, and assuming we can get the closed captioning right, we'll be posting it on the county's website. We have to have everything closed captioned in order to do that. So back to you, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining today to learn how you can electrify your ride with an EV or e-bike. My name is Anika Osborne. I'm with Cool the Earth, an environmental nonprofit. I'll move on to the next slide here, with a mission to reduce carbon emissions and air pollution. We believe that walking, biking, carpooling, preferably in an electric vehicle, and public transit are the best modes of transportation. And with Ride and Drive Clean, we focus on educating and engaging people around zero emissions vehicles, like EVs and e-bikes, because the rapid increase of electric vehicles will improve air quality and help slow global warming. Here's our agenda today. We're going to talk about the benefits of driving electric. I'll review some of the most popular current and coming EVs. We'll talk a little bit about how to EV, which is mostly charging at home and on the road. And then we'll talk a little bit about more ways that you can connect with Ride and Drive Clean. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A. I'd like to thank MCE for sponsoring today's webinar, and Brendan, Jody, and the G3 Champions for helping to coordinate this program for Contra Costa employees. So there are many benefits to driving electric. In California, our passenger vehicles are the single largest source of GHG emissions, representing up to 50% of our individual carbon footprint. When we switch from a gas car to an EV and plug into clean energy, like we can here in the Bay Area, with MCE and other small utilities and CCAs, we are taking impactful climate action by reducing both carbon emissions and air pollution, both which disproportionately impact equity priority communities. And in addition to reducing your impact on the planet, there's no sacrifice when you go electric. You can save time, money, and improve your driving experience with an EV. We know that cost is one of the biggest barriers. We just saw that in the survey to driving electric. And although early EV drivers paid a high premium for electric cars, today's EV drivers often save money. This chart shows one example, but based on a February 2022 study, the total lifetime cost of ownership of an EV is about $4,700 less than that of a comparable gas car. That's about in 10 to 12 years of owning the car. And I will say that study was actually done before the conflict that we're having in Russia and the Ukraine, and gas prices have actually gone up significantly since then. So I'm imagining that the total lifetime cost of ownership is, more advantageous even now. Some of the reasons for the low cost of driving electric are that there are fueling a gas car can be 2 to 5 times more expensive than fueling an EV. And because the EVs have fewer than 20 moving parts, maintenance costs are 40% lower than for EVs. In addition, incentives are available for up to $10,250 when you purchase or lease a new EV, and more if your income qualifies. So let's take a look at the incentives available for new EVs. You can save up to $10,250 with rebates and tax credits for a fully electric car, and a little less than that for a plug-in hybrid. While the incentives listed on this slide are for new cars only, there are some income qualifying rebates and grants available for both new and used cars. So there's the California Clean Fuels Reward for $750, which you receive at point of sale. The California Clean Vehicle Rebate has some income qualifications and vehicle price limits, but the $2,000 for the standard rebate. The federal tax credits are for tax liability when you file your taxes. So that might be something to consider and plan ahead for, even though some of the manufacturers will pass along the federal tax credits if you lease. This is mostly for if you're purchasing an EV. If your income qualifies and you're an MCE customer, there's an MCE electric vehicle rebate available for $3,500. And there's also funding to retire your old car. This is through the Air District. The Clean Air Vehicle decal gives EV drivers access to the HOV lane as a single passenger for 3 years, which can greatly cut down on commute times. This is why a lot of people end up leasing an EV so they can take advantage of that. And after their lease is up, they can get a new decal with their new EV. And then there are a couple of savings calculators here that I've listed that are helpful to find out exactly which incentives you qualify for. So in addition to saving time and money with an EV, it's a little more fun to drive electric. So what I really like is the extra torque or power that you get when you drive an EV. I can quickly accelerate when getting on the freeway and then easily maneuver between lanes. You just kind of power up and glide into where you need to go. It's really fun. The quiet, smooth drive makes for great conversations when you're on a road trip. And for me, the high safety ratings of EVs were a really big factor. I have teenagers at home driving, so I guess high safety ratings are important for everyone, but yeah. Another benefit here. So some people are worried about buying EVs because they won't be able to power them during power outages, but EVs can actually help during a power shutdown. You can plug an inexpensive 300-watt inverter into the accessory port and power up small appliances like cell phones, laptops, LED lights. I live over in San Rafael, and 2 years ago, we lost power for 5 days. I plugged in that little red box into my EV and an extension cord, and I plugged in a bunch of string lights. So we had a little bit of comfort in our living room during that time. I was powering up my cell phone and my computer also with the EV battery. It eats up very little of your battery because driving is very energy intensive. So while this low wattage inverter cannot power up your refrigerator, some new EVs that are out this year, like the Kia EV6 and the Hyundai Ioniq 5, can, because they have higher wattage bidirectional batteries. You can see that in the middle there, the image, you can plug in an extension cord right into the charging cable, and then you can plug that into your refrigerator. If you were to lose power for an extended amount of time, and that could power up your refrigerator for many, many days. The Ford F-150 Lightning truck, which is just out now, can be integrated into the house's electrical system to provide backup energy to your home. It really acts like a generator, and it's a battery on wheels when you're on the road doing different jobs. So very excited to see these 3 new cars coming to market this year. And then the technology around inverters is advancing quickly. There are several companies working on vehicle-to-home energy management systems. So just imagine when you come home at the end of the day, when electricity is expensive and not so clean, you can power up your home with the energy stored in your EV battery, and then power up your EV battery at midnight when there's ample, clean, inexpensive electricity available from the grid. or you can power up during the day when we know we have a lot of solar energy available on the grid. So next we'll be talking about the EVs that are currently available and some that are coming soon. Before we take a look at the cars though, let's take a look at the batteries, which store the energy. I just want to point out though that the MSRP starting price 26.5 just came down. That's Chevy Bolts, who's giving a big discount on their 2022 models. And that is the starting price for their 2023 models. Like, it's exciting that we're seeing like this MSRP pricing this low. The average price of a new car in 2022 is $47,000. And that's before incentives there. Okay, so as we're seeing all around us, humans are having a significant impact on the environment. There's a huge environmental impact from extraction and transportation of fossil fuels and from driving gas cars. There are issues with EVs, mainly the batteries in terms of extracting rare minerals and the energy required to produce the batteries. But there's so much research being done around batteries, and batteries are changing quickly. The goal is for batteries to be cleaner, safer, and more efficient. So the good news about EV batteries is that besides the early Nissan Leafs, there's very little battery degradation. So the batteries will last for many miles. Some are predicting 300,000, 500,000 miles. Others are talking about a 1,000,000-mile battery. So we're really not talking about replacing batteries in these newer EVs at all. So the EV, the battery that comes with your EV will stay with your car to the end of the life of the car. And so for EVs, when the battery, there is some degradation. And when the battery does go below say, 80% of its capacity, the range is reduced, which is not catastrophic. You can still drive your EV, just not as far on one charge. But once it goes below your range needs, then there's the second life of EV batteries, using them for stationary storage, which is something that our utilities are very interested in for grid stabilization. We produce a lot of solar energy in the United States, here in California, especially. And if we don't use that electricity or store it while the sun is shining, when the sun goes down, it's gone. So there's a lot of research being done now to transition EV batteries for stationary storage, for utilities, and as we talked about, even, for home storage, storing energy at home. And then after being used to store energy, 95% of the materials can be recycled. Even the rare earth minerals like cobalt can be purified and reused, which is really good news. And just to give you like perspective, all of our electronics have lithium ion batteries, our cell phones, our laptops, our, tablets, everything. Currently, EVs represent only 10% of all mined materials for batteries, because all of our electronics are really using these types of batteries. So with so many EVs and plug-in hybrids available, there's an EV or e-bike for every lifestyle and budget. Most fully electric EVs offer 200 to 300 miles of range, and some go even farther on one charge. So this means you can go from San Francisco to Sacramento and back without stopping to charge. It wasn't like this 5 years ago, besides a couple of very expensive cars. So exciting news, things are moving quickly with EVs. So here come the cars. On the following slides, the prices listed are the base MSRP. There are many additional incentives that may apply, as I mentioned earlier. So the actual cost can be much less than these prices. I will just say right now, before I talk about all these cars, that due to some pandemic delays and the conflict that we're having, we're currently experiencing low inventory of EVs. Dealers don't necessarily have a lot of inventory, so they're not giving great deals on cars, and some of them are actually jacking up the prices quite a bit. So we're hearing from our partners and people in the manufacturing industry that Q1 2023, by then we should have much more inventory of the cars and prices will be normalizing again. And I will just note that this low inventory on new EVs has trickled down to used EVs. So while you could find some like bargain used EVs 2 years ago, right now it's hard to find really great deals on used EVs, because everybody's looking to go electric now, especially with the price of gasoline and everything. So, but there's hope in the future. We have more EVs coming and more inventory, looking at Q1 2023 there. So anyway, the Chevy Bolts was revolutionary when it came out in 2017. It It was the first long-range EV that came to market under $40,000. Chevy has recently reduced their pricing for 2022 and 2023 models. And the Bolt EUV is a new model that came out last summer, similar to the Bolt, but it's a little bit more spacious. And Chevy is offering a free level 2 charger in addition to these great deals. So here are a few popular models that you've most likely seen around. The Hyundai Kona, the Kia Niro are really great crossovers. The Tesla Model 3 offers an all-wheel drive option and very fast charging. Incidentally, and as I mentioned before, the average price of a new car, $47,000. So these cars are right in there. At this point, I'd like to introduce Daniel Davis, who works at the county and drives electric. Daniel, why did you choose to drive electric, and what has your experience been like?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me today. Just to give you a brief overview. So I chose to drive electric just because I was on the last legs of my last car, which was a 2008 Mazda 6. And I knew that I wanted to step into the EV territory. I'd heard a lot about EVs and the things that they do. So at that time that my last car wouldn't pass smog, I had to get rid of it. And that was the perfect opportunity because cheaper EVs started to come on the market. When I got my Model 3, there was the Chevy Bolt and the Tesla Model 3. And those were relatively cheap at the time. I paid, the base price was $37,000 when I got mine. Out the door price with taxes, fees, registration, all of that was around $42,000. Then with incentives, it got it all the way down to about $36,000 out the door when I got my car. I've had it since 2019. I put about 50,000 miles on it. So, I do about, 17,000 miles a year. And basically I purchased it because of one, the sustainability, but also, as we just stated earlier, the performance jump is incredible. The feeling, the acceleration, the torque is amazing. Then also just things like just being on the cutting edge of technology, being able to put my blinders on when I pass by a gas station, especially nowadays, is great. And that HOV access is pretty amazing as well. Another quick tidbit about maintenance is that I've had no maintenance. I've changed the tires once, and that's been it. I expect to change the windshield wiper fluids at some point and maybe the brakes, but with regenerative braking, one pedal driving, it's much less of a need than on a gas powered car. So those are some of the reasons why I switched, and it just makes a lot of sense. And as we stated, there are, a lot of different EVs out now, so you'll find something for everybody.
That's great. Thank you, Daniel. If you guys, do you want to maybe drop your email address into the chat in case people who work at the county want to connect with you and ask further questions?
Yes, definitely.
Really great. Thank you. Here are some higher end EVs that have been around for a while: the Audi e-tron, the Polestar 2, which is a relative of Volvo, and the Tesla Model Y. These are beautiful, safe cars. The Model Y has an optional third row of seating for a total of 7 passengers. These next few cars came out in 2021, so they get their own slide. The Volkswagen ID.4 is the first from the Volkswagen ID brand, and there will be more coming soon. We hear the ID Buzz, which gives a nod to that old nostalgic Volkswagen bus, should be arriving in early 2024. And they have some prototypes out there, some models, and a lot of publicity for that. Should be pretty exciting. So a bonus with this car, when you lease or buy this car, you'll receive free fast charging for 3 years at the Electrify America charging network. In addition, Volkswagen will pass on the federal tax credit to you if you lease this car, which can bring the cost down even more. The Mustang Mach-E is a very popular SUV. People love this car, and while it doesn't look like the old traditional Mustangs that we're used to seeing, it's a very cool looking car and very fun to drive. The Volvo XC40 is also a great SUV. You sit up nice and high. It has a beautiful interior. And the C40 model is a crossover, which is a bit sleeker than the XC40 model. Both come standard with all-wheel drive. These, I have, like Daniel, I got my standard range Tesla Model 3 for $37,000 3 years ago. But it doesn't have so many bells and whistles. Like a friend of mine got this Volvo C40, and it has all of the bells and whistles that any typical Volvo would have. I mean, including, I was impressed. She wanted to open her trunk, and she just had to kind of hover her foot underneath, the back of her car, and then it just popped up. I was like, wow, that's cool. So So yeah, that's good to know. But also Volvo is committed to going all electric by 2030 and all vegan seats. We're all happy about that. So here's the Kia EV6 that I mentioned earlier. It has the bidirectional battery. It's a compact crossover, and it's the first model from Kia built exclusively as an EV. It can charge 60 miles in 5 minutes and go from 10% to 80% of a charge on a fast charger in just 18 minutes. So we're not quite at a gas station model yet, but we're getting close. The EV6 has a very streamlined, sporty design on the outside. And as I mentioned, that bidirectional charging, really great. I have a couple friends who have recently gotten this car. They love it. They were Chevy Bolt drivers before, and they got this, and they're really enjoying like the new technology that's, available in these new cars. The Hyundai Ioniq 5 is very similar. It sits on the same platform as the EV6. It just has it has all the same features, the super fast charging. It has, the only difference, it has a little bit of a different look. It's a little more retro, a little boxier. So it can fit a little, the cargo space, I guess, is a little bit enhanced and a little taller there. And then there's Rivian, the new all-electric EV manufacturer. The Rivian SUV and truck offer excellent utility with a high range. As an environmental nonprofit, we like the fact that Rivian answers the high consumer demand for both SUVs and trucks. They are promoting themselves as the adventure EV company, and they're building out a proprietary fast charging network in far-reaching places and national parks. Like Yosemite is going to have a bunch of super fast charging stations for Rivian. They're also building out a level 2 charging network, slower charging, but that will be available for all EV drivers. So in addition to the Rivian truck, we're especially excited about the Ford F-150 Lightning, which offers extra resiliency with bidirectional charging. It's basically a battery on wheels. I talked to somebody who lives down the street who drives like the regular Ford F-150, and I was telling him about this, and I mentioned how he can like charge up his electrical tools and stuff just right there in his car from the battery, and he was like, "No way! I have to bring a gas generator with me to a lot of jobs so I can power up my tools." So he was really excited to hear about this. I didn't know this before, but the regular F-150 is the most popular car in the United States. So we think the Lightning model is going to be super popular, a real game changer. I know a couple of cities and counties are ordering these for their fleets. So Subaru and Toyota are a little late to the EV market, but we're excited to see these cars coming out any day now. They have both offered plug-in hybrids in the past, and it's great to see them evolve with fully electric models. The Nissan Ariya is Nissan's second all-electric EV, and they're expanding beyond the Leaf, which is nice. Not pictured here, the Audi Q4 e-tron has a significantly lower price than the current Audi e-tron, starts at $45,000. And then there's the Fisker Ocean, the first EV from Fisker coming out later this year, also at around $40,000. And then BMW has both a sedan and an SUV that are new to the market that coming out this year. A little more on trucks, more trucks are on the way. We're excited to see, such a variety coming to market because there's a big demand for trucks. I'm just amazed that over 3 million people have ordered the Tesla Cybertruck. So big demand out there for sure. So if you cannot find an all-electric car that works for you, there are many plug-in hybrids out there. So if you plug in a PHEV, as we call them, every night, you may be able to cover your commute driving all electric, and you can save the gas tank for road trips. So the Prius Prime, the Ford, Escape PHEV, the Kia Niro are all great options for commuting. And if you require a larger plug-in hybrid, these are some great options. The Chrysler Pacifica is a very popular minivan. It's a beautiful, well-appointed car, also very high in demand. The Toyota RAV4 Prime, I read stories and it says that, it takes 2 years. There's a wait of 2 years to get one of these cars, and that they were increasing the price by $10,000 at the dealers because there's such a high demand. But then I hear people, I put on an EV 102 for people who are new car EV buyers to help them kind of get started. And I see people all the time who've just gotten Toyota RAV4 Prime. I think it sort of has to do with like being at the right place at the right time, if a dealership has just gotten in a big delivery kind of thing. And so EVs have been around for just around 10 years. And because EV technology is so new, people have tended to lease their EVs. So now there are many available on the market at, I should say, decent prices. I used to say great prices. These are just a few of the many affordable used EVs available. Higher range EVs like Chevy Bolts and Teslas are also available on the used market. Many, basically you can get any car on the used market at this point. Even some of the 2021 cars are available on the used market. But yeah, again, we're hoping in about 6 months that we'll see like this normalizing, the prices normalizing a little bit more. So if you're not in the market for an EV, an e-bike might be just right for you. So instead of hopping in a gas car, you can reduce your emissions when you commute and run errands with an e-bike. E-bikes are really fast and fun, and there are so many types of models to choose from. And I'd like to introduce Adam Scarborough from the county. Adam, please let me know your experience, commuting with your e-bike and what you think.
Thanks, Annika. Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Scarborough. I'm a planner with the Department of Conservation and Development, and I'm also a G3 champion. So I've been riding my e-bike for over 5 years for both commuting and fun. I first got on an e-bike in Santa Cruz about 6 years ago. It was a jump bike, and it was one of the funnest things I've done. So it didn't take me long to jump on board and get one for myself. Quickly, I want to go over, first I want to debunk a few misconceptions about e-bikes, and then I want to share a few benefits that I've experienced. So for misconceptions, the first one is that they're too expensive, and they are expensive up front, but if you consider the gas costs that you're saving, I don't know how much I've saved over 5 years, but I've put almost 2,000 miles on the bike. So that's a lot of gas that I could have been spending money on. Next misconception is they're overly complicated. That's also a little bit of a stretch. The bikes are basically the same. They just have a motor and a battery and are a little bit more heavy. So maintenance is the exact same pretty much. And the motors and batteries last for, I've had my bike for 5 years and the battery is still going strong. Next misconception would be that they're limited by distance. And while that is technically true, batteries are finite. You can still go really far on a charge. I think most e-bikes range from about 25 to 50 miles, and that's depending on the level of assist that you use. Last misconception is that you need a license for an e-bike. You don't. It's for any class. There's 3 classes, class 1, 2, and 3. And none of them you need a license for. So, and then I'll go over the benefits that I've experienced. The biggest benefit is the traffic. I don't ever sit in traffic when I ride my e-bike. It's a huge stressor for me when I'm in traffic. So it's a great way to alleviate that. Next, e-bikes don't have any emissions. So you're reducing your carbon footprint every time you ride one. And you also, if you commute, you can get to work without being super sweaty at the end of your ride, which is important for me and probably a lot of other people. E-bikes are also really good for hilly terrain. So if you live in a hilly area and you're intimidated by biking up and down the hills, e-bikes can handle it no problem. You can also improve your health on an e-bike. So even though you can get a lot of assist while you're riding, you can also dial down the assist. And actually, even if you're riding on high assist but going fast and still working hard, you're definitely getting cardio. And then the last benefit, which I haven't experienced, but I know is out there, is that there are rebates. I believe PG&E has one for trading in a gas car, and you can get a lot of money back, or a lot of money towards buying an e-bike or multiple e-bikes. So
yeah, I'll jump in on that one. I think it's 511 Contra Costa or Contra Costa 511 or something. They have some rebates available. We have a list of all the EVs out there, and I'll send you this in a follow-up email so you can see. Okay, so now we've come to the how to EV portion of the webinar. So we'll be talking about how to EV, which is mostly charging options at home, at work, on the road. And so people get worried about charging. But for most people, 85% of charging is done either at home or at work, which is very easy and convenient. There are two options for charging at home. The first is an easy, no-cost solution and is ample for most people. You just plug in the charger that comes with your vehicle into a standard 120-volt outlet. It gives you between 25 and 45 miles of charge in 8 hours, which is usually overnight, if you're on one of those special plans, just enough to replenish your battery. People in the Bay Area drive an average of 23 miles a day, so this easy solution called level 1 charging works out great for most people. If you drive more than 50 miles a day, a good option is to see if you can charge at work, which many of you are able to do at the county. If not, you may want to purchase a home charging station for level 2 charging. You'll get about 25 miles in an hour, so you can easily get a full charge overnight. But I just want to let you know with an EV, it's rare that you would be charging your EV from 10% to 100%. Typically, you're just topping off what you've used during the day. So that's something that can be done with level 1 quite easily, or level 2 in 2 to 4 hours or so. So charging away from home, there are many level 2 public charging stations available, so you can charge when you're around town and running errands. For example, when I go to my farmer's market at the Civic Center, I usually charge my car for an hour and pick up 25 miles of range. That costs me about $1. When you're on a road trip, you'll want to fast charge with a level 3 charger, which is the fastest charging available. Different EVs charge at different speeds, so that's something to be aware of. On average, fast charging will get you about 70% of your battery charge in 30 minutes. And charging speeds are decreasing or increasing all the time with new models. So on the road charging is often just a 20 or 30-minute stop. So once you start driving electric, it's ideal to charge your EV from rooftop solar, so you can charge with the energy generated from your own roof. If you're not ready for solar, you can choose a clean energy plan from your utility, like MCE Light or Deep Green, so you're charging your EV with clean energy from the sun and the wind. In fact, you can choose clean electricity even if you don't have an EV. In addition, your utility may offer a special reduced EV or time of use rate so that you pay less for electricity during certain times of the day. In the MCE service area, the off-peak time is from midnight to 3 p.m. If you're able to work from home, it's great. You can charge during that whole extensive time. You just don't want to charge so much between 3 p.m. and midnight because it's a lot more expensive during that time. So there are several EV charging solutions for people who live in apartments and condos, and more solutions are on the way. People can charge by plugging into a standard 120-volt outlet if that's available and allowed. New smart outlets are an inexpensive solution to charging that also handles billing. So this overcomes the issue if you're not allowed to charge at your condo or your apartment, because this allows the user to pay for what you use. So it's not split among all of the people who are living in the apartment or condo. People charge at public fast chargers. Approximately 90% of Californians now live within 15% of an Electrify America ultra fast charger. And Biden's infrastructure plan includes 500,000 new ultra fast charging stations throughout the United States, many of which are coming to California. So if there's not one near you now, there is one coming soon. You can also lobby your property owner to install the standard 120-volt outlets in the parking spaces, or a hub of level 2 chargers. And then you can charge at work when the sun is shining and we have plentiful solar energy available. And Brendan is going to talk a bit about charging at work at the county.
Thank you, Annika. So I'm Brendan Havener-Doughton, energy manager for the county in Public Works. My main priority right now is to roll out EV charging infrastructure primarily for fleet, but we're also looking at every opportunity to allow for workplace or employee charging. I've just listed some of the addresses where we have charging infrastructure, and I know it's pretty annoying, but right now restrictions apply depending on what site. For example, the site that's pictured here is 1126 Escobar, downtown Martinez. That site has a fair amount of chargers, maybe 12 or so, but currently they're restricted to those admin employees that work in the buildings downtown there. So, and there are some other restrictions in some of these other sites. So what we'll be working towards is trying to put policies in place that allow for maximizing utilization of our charging infrastructure, because that's the point of it. So we want to get a better sense of all the use cases for our fleet vehicles and also the relative needs for our employee charging needs and interests, right? So for a lot of us, we're not commuting much more than 30 to 40 miles, if that, a day. If that's your commute on a full EV, and even if you have limited charging at home, you may only need to plug into a level 2, pictured here, for 1 day a week or half a day a week to get that battery back. And then, of course, the first bullet point is just right now we have 25 cents kWh for charging. It's, kind of on par to what you'd be paying at the house. Although when you're charging at home, many of you know maybe that, charging after midnight is going to give you the cheapest rate. Also, if you have an EV, you can apply for a rate change with the utility to get lower rates for that charging time period, which it bumps up your rate for general use, but overall you're paying a lower rate. There's much to do in terms of the policy and how we manage our chargers and how we open them up for employees. And so that's all in the works. My project right now is $2.5 million to roll out level 2, primarily charging infrastructure, maybe across about 15 sites. So we're looking at that. Thank you all for those of you that participated in our EV employee survey. We have nearly 1,200 responses on that. So we'll be sifting through that, and we'll be looking at all the comments that you've shared. So with that, I'll turn it back, and I dropped my email in the chat if anybody wants to reach out.
Okay, thank you so much, Brendan. Really useful. And I just want to point out in 4 hours, you can pick up 100 miles of charge. And at that rate, it would cost you about $4 or $5. So really nice rate there, nice benefit for sure. Okay, so taking a road trip is getting simpler all the time. Thousands of public charging sites provide fast charging, and using apps like PlugShare, it's easy to plan a trip before you head out and find chargers with the app along the way. You can map out your trip on your computer. I do this all the time the night before, so I can kind of get an idea of where I'm going to be stopping. You can also see what types of facilities are there, if they have restaurants, grocery stores, or other shops, that kind of thing. So PlugShare is highly recommended. Also, if you don't have charging at home, you can use PlugShare to find chargers that are close to your home or even close to work if it's not available there. Electrify America, EVgo, ChargePoint all offer app or card-based stations, so you just tap charge and go. With public charging, we do recommend that you practice a couple times locally before you head out on a road trip. I will point out that ChargePoint is the network that the county is using, so you would need a ChargePoint account to use the chargers at work. So when taking a road trip, many hotels offer free level 2 destination charging. So you can charge while you're, overnight while you're at a hotel. And then sometimes, when you're staying with a family or friends or at a vacation rental, you can pack your charging cable with you and then just charge while you're there. I've done that a lot of times at Verbos and Airbnbs. I just reach out to the property manager in advance and let them know, and they've always been fine with it. So that gives you a little more charge, overnight while you're, on a road trip. I want to talk a little bit more about what we do here. So Ride and Drive Clean is ready to help you go electric. We offer these weekly Zoom webinars for the public, as well as for different workplaces and community groups. We also host EV and e-bike shows, so consumers can, talk to EV owners about driving and riding electric. We're planning to offer one to Contra Costa County employees this fall, and we have a couple others scheduled. One in each in West and East Contra Costa. So since you're signed up with us now, you'll be getting a newsletter, which you can unsubscribe to if you would like, but really we'll just be giving you lots of useful information in these newsletters. Including we have this great, website that has tons of information, lots of videos and buying and driving guides and such. But you can also save big with our EV discount campaigns. We plan to offer one. We partner with Cartelligent, which is a car concierge service, to get extra discounts on EVs. So we're planning to run one in Q1 2023. We're hearing from Cartelligent that they think inventory is going to be picked up, and we'll be able to. They do the negotiating for us with different dealers to get us great deals. So good to sort of stay in touch with us. We'll be messaging all this out to you. So we can all remember our blue skies and clean air 2 years ago when many people stopped driving. Let's aim to return to blue skies and clean air. If you can make the switch to driving electric now, we're here to help. The sooner the better. If you're not ready now, can we have your support by pledging to make your next car electric? Our biggest ask really is please don't buy a new gas car. It will be on this earth emitting carbon and air pollution for 12 to 15 years, and we need to stop doing that as soon as possible. So I see some questions here. I have to kind of sift through them.
I think a lot of the questions have been answered in the chat. I want to thank John Sue and Brendan and a few other Paul Dutchins, experienced EV drivers, Nathan, for all your help in answering these questions. If you think that this presentation was useful and your colleagues would be interested, let us know and we'll try to advocate for MCE to make Annika available to us again. She's also going to be doing this program through the county library as part of their community education program. So we are really, really wanting to get all of our county employees comfortable with driving electric because as you can see, it's coming to the county suite as well. And again, if you want to join our G3 champions, we would be happy to have you do that. I put the link in the chat. Let me know if you need anything. Brendan, did you want to add any closing remarks?
No, not in particular, just that I want to be a resource for everybody. I know there's a lot of interest in workplace charging. So the more information that you can share in terms of your interest and your needs, the better. Obviously, there's a lot of information coming in. So the more actionable it is, the better. So I have an EV. I would love to be able to charge once a week at my site. My site address is X. Also, thinking about, ground truthing some of our assumptions of EV ownership at our various offices would be great. I want to emphasize that the money that we have allocated for these charging infrastructure is really to serve first and foremost our fleet, but we have a real opportunity to help open it up to employees as well. And I think as long as we get the data and information to help make that case, then we're going to have a better outcome for both fleet and workplace charging. So don't be shy in sharing any comments, hopes, dreams, questions you have, and with your input, I can increase the value for all stakeholders in terms of this project. Annika, the other thing I wanted to mention is that we're hoping to do a EV and e-bike car and bike show, right? So likely in October, and we want to kind of ask folks to save the date, even though there's no date yet. But as you talk with our colleagues, we can start to plug that, and hopefully, our goal today was met. We had over 100 attendees here. Again, 1,200 responses on the survey. Our goal for bringing folks out for the car show is maybe around 300, and we're going to bring many partners to the table, and that's where we can really get down into the nitty gritty, sit inside the cars and talk shop with each of our with each vehicle type and talk to some of the car owners.
Yeah, and if any of you already drive electric, you might want to join us that day and talk to some of your colleagues about your experience. It's always nice to have somebody on the inside to talk to, But we'll also bring, EV volunteers from all around to showcase their cars and answer your questions.
We're right at 1:00. So I really want to thank you all for taking time out of your day to spend your lunch hour with us. I hope this was informative. Please follow up with questions. Annika, anything else we should end
Yeah,
with?
I will send a follow-up email. So if anybody has any questions or if you want to continue the conversation, feel free to email me back.